Hey, super friends, my name is Neil, and welcome to this, a brand new episode of the Get Your Comic On podcast. I promised you last week that we would be back sooner than you thought after I had been sick and it delayed our Scream episode, and here we are. Today is Tuesday, the 17th of March, as we are recording this. I am aggrieved today, and you will find out why in just a second. But I am joined today by Aaron to do a quick what's happening in the world of pop culture, because, oh, is there so much going on in the world of pop culture right now? But before we get into all of that nonsense, Aaron, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm not grieving as much as you, but I'm frustrated on your behalf.
I'm grieving. I'm aggrieved. I am angry. I am outraged. I am outraged. Yeah. Well, this is really funny because we've talked on a couple of episodes ago. We talked about how there's only a couple of gaps in our schedule because as soon as like the big releases start, it's basically like bang, 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 bang. I'm pretty sure Mario on April the 1st is like the beginning of like a snowball where we've got something planned every single episode all the way through, as long as it pans out.
Yeah.
And it came to this episode and it was like, oh, well, we could all try and go see Project Hail Mary, which I don't actually think any of the three of us did.
No.
So going to see that one when it's officially out rather than preview weekend.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, I'm slightly struggling for how we're going to fill this. And then just like a barrage of stuff happened, both positive and less so, that kind of filled it up quite quickly.
Yeah. Plus, I think because you were having a discussion with me and Michael about like what do we do, and then I was like, oh, hang on a minute, there are some March releases we haven't covered yet that you and me have. It might not be Project Hail Mary, but we're playing catch up at this point. So,
and I should just say, Michael is not with us tonight because it's his birthday this week.
yeah.
And I gave him two choices, which was celebrate with us or have a night off. And rudely, he chose to have a night off.
How dare he?
I know. But he will hopefully be back with us for the next episode, and God knows what we'll be talking about. But to kick things off, because you have found a neat narrative thread through all of the topics that are on this podcast, we're going to start with Buffy. So many highs, and yet so many ultimate lows.
Yeah.
With this year.
I suppose the good news is we're starting with the sad one, and then it just
That's
gets
true.
better
Yeah,
from
it's gonna go up from there.
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to what we're talking about last because I haven't seen it, but everything I have seen and heard about it is magical. So I'm looking forward to hearing about it. But yeah, where we are. Because this changes on like a daily basis between Saturday and now. Buffy is not happening. This is Buffy New Sunnydale, the kind of continuation show that Sarah Michelle Gellar has been working on for the last few years, developing with Chloe Zhao. Filmed a pilot last summer, which also starred Ryan Kira Johnson as Nova, a brand new Slayer. I mean, it was fully cast, fully shot a pilot episode, but it is now not moving forwards. So this was announced by Sarah Michelle Gellar on Saturday morning, her time. It's kind of afternoon, our time. She put up a really emotional video. Like, she was clearly really upset about the whole thing, which was just Hulu has decided not to move forwards with Buffy New Sunnydale. And it seemed quite final. Then Ryan put out a statement on her social media. She did a video where she was also clearly really emotional. And in hers, she actually said she was sad that no one was going to get to see what they did, which makes it sound like it may never get released, the pilot episode. And then on the carpet at the Oscars, Chloe Zhao had to firstly apologize for her outfit because it looked like she was completely in mourning. She also looked like the character of Drusilla from Buffy, which I thought was amazing. She said it was a complete coincidence. But interestingly, in the one interview I saw from her where she mentioned it, she said that they move forwards into a mystery as to what comes next for it. And then when she was asked if they were going to shop it around, which I didn't think was going to be a possibility, she said that's part of the mystery. So I don't know if it's that she doesn't know whether they can or not, or whether I don't know. She made it a little bit more ambiguous than it seemed. So we came out of the weekend feeling like everything was kind of okay, this isn't happening. Then the script appeared to leak online. I don't know. I have read it and I am happy to talk about it. I don't know if it's legit or not because it has no studio watermarkings. There's no production markings on it. It's just
Right.
a script. It doesn't seem like it's AI, but at the same time, there's nothing to say that you couldn't have taken all of the kind of casting, the story rumors, the set photos, plug it into like Chat GPT and say, come up with a script, and then it came up with it. So I don't know if it's legit or not. It is very much unverified, but I have read it. So then that
Right.
happened, and I had thoughts about that. And then I woke up this morning to this piece in People magazine where Sarah Michelle Gellar doesn't, I think, name, but says that there was an executive at Hulu who was put in charge of making the decision on Buffy, who outright said to her, I haven't watched it. It's not for me, and I don't really care for it, and then axed it. And it would seem that he made the call really late on Friday night to Chloe Zhao and to Sarah Michelle Gellar. So on the eve of Chloe going to the Oscars, where she's nominated for Best Director, and literally as Sarah was stepping out at South by Southwest for the premiere of Ready or Not To. And okay, I don't know why he did it at that time, but it is not being portrayed very well in the media because there was no deadline for it to happen. So it didn't have to happen. And there was no looming deadline in terms of like cast options on whether they needed to be told or not whether they had a job. He just seemingly chose to make this call right before these two women had these huge moments in their careers, a premiere and potential Oscar. And then Deadline went and outed it as Disney Television Group President Craig Erwich as being the person who did it. Then they announced that he's been promoted to be the head of Disney and 20th Century Television, meaning that if Hulu, so the rumor was that Hulu was still wanted to make a Buffy show, but not this Buffy show.
Right.
But now, I'm sorry, I realize I'm saying a lot. If anyone now wants to make a Buffy show or pitch a Buffy show, they have to pitch it to him, and he has to make the decision as to whether it can even get a development deal. So he wasn't part of the development of this new Sunnydale show. He just became the executive that had to make the final decision on whether it could become a series or not. Now he has been promoted to the position where no one can even get it off the ground without him saying yes. Supposedly, they had been told it was looking very positive. Apparently, there were some issues with the pilot that they shot, but they had rewritten the script, made a few changes to it, etc., and that as far as they were concerned, it was a dead cert to get picked up. But he has just said, I'm not really interested in Buffy, no. And that is where we find ourselves. Very sad, very upset, very angry about it.
I mean, I didn't know I knew like the basics, start, middle, and end, but I didn't know the gritty ins and outs that you've just mentioned. But it
gets really messy.
Yeah, the timing seems awful. Yeah. Like that's the worst possible point to do it. And also going off of what you've said, again, I don't want to like sound too harsh, but like it kind of comes across more in the sense that like he's cancelled it more out of personal preference rather than anything else.
It's weird, isn't it? And I don't know. I mean, it's difficult because it's being reported. So Sarah's interviews with People magazine. It's obviously also being reported by Deadline, by Variety, Hollywood Reporter, all of them, and all of them are writing it in a way. They're not outright saying anything bad about him, but it is clearly all being written from a very pro Sarah, pro Chloe position. So it's, whilst there were issues with the pilot, there were issues with every pilot, it was being worked on. It's being written that, they took all of the studio notes and they made rewrites based on them to try and appease everything that Hulu had said that they were unsure about. So you've got a group, basically you have the original star, an already Academy Award winning, nominated again director. You had writers who come from some great shows, which I can't remember off the top of my head, so please don't quote me, but they have quite an illustrious career. And they've also done everything that you asked for in terms of the notes that you gave them that you were worried about from the pilot that they gave you. And then you wait months and months and months and months, and then just randomly make this decision
Yeah.
at this random time on a Friday night. It just something it just doesn't sit right, but it could just be the way it's being portrayed. He hasn't said anything himself. Hulu haven't really said anything directly
Mm.
themselves at all. They're staying very quiet at the moment.
I think outside of the timing as well, the bit that baffled me since the news came out was the whole thing of like, well, they're pretty much like they're almost there, they're good to go, and the fact
Mm,
they've just ripped the rug out from under them.
yeah.
I've not really heard anything like this in terms of like recent, you know,
No. And this I
shows.
said to somebody earlier today, we're kind of in a Batgirl situation.
I was about to say that this is oddly similar to Batgirl. I
Yeah,
would say Coyote versus Acme as well, but that's
yeah,
actually getting
yeah.
released.
But it is. It feels like one of those moments, like, oh, you
Mm,
because the quote that was it's kind of an indirect quote. The indirect quote about what he had said was, and I'm just scanning through the article to try and find it. It's one source close to the project compared the situation to completing a $3 million renovation only to find out that the house has foundation issues. Instead of fixing the foundation, you just go, meh, and walk away.
Jesus.
So they spend a fair amount of money on making this pilot.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
this is screaming Batgirl.
Yeah.
This
Because
is
the other thing about it that, again, no one has directly sort of said, but you have to question
mm,
is even if this guy had some sort of loose involvement at other
mm,
stages throughout the process,
yeah,
you you must have seen the scripts that you approved for them to shoot because you've given them a budget and you've greenlit a pilot being shot. You
yeah,
know, they didn't just randomly go and shoot an episode of a TV show and go, "Hey, what do you think?" So you were happy enough with the script, or whoever was involved was happy enough with the scripts to
mm,
greenlight it and give
yeah,
it a substantial enough budget to make a proper
mm,
episode.
yeah,
Because the script that I read is 59 pages. So
mm,
you're still talking about like a 50-minute show once you've edited
mm,
it down. Um, you had there's been no that we're aware of, no issues at the casting stage,
no,
anything. It's only now, just all of a sudden, it's like,
yeah,
boom, no, I don't want it. So I don't know,
yeah.
it doesn't feel like any other situation
Y-
we've seen recently,
y-
other than the kind of the tax write-off situation.
yeah. Usually these
And I'm not
things
suggesting it's a
happen.
tax write-off. I think
No.
it just seems like exactly like you said, like a case of personal preference.
Usually these things happen either really early on in the stage
Yeah,
or a like sometimes even halfway through, but the fact that they're so far along at this point makes it just even that bit weirder. From at
yeah.
least from my
And
perspective, this is someone who like hasn't watched the show but
yeah,
has every intention to watch it.
yeah.
But it from an outsider looking in, it does seem a bit strange.
And when you think about the number of kind of reboots and continuations that have made it to the screen, so like Frasier,
Mm.
um, I saw people talking about Gossip Girl quite a lot for some reason. I think that might have had some people from Buffy on it, so maybe that's why people
I
think of it.
mean,
Um,
this year you've got the this is another Hulu thing. Scrubs has come back
yeah,
with the
and that's
original
been really
creator.
successful.
Oh, it's so good.
I haven't
That's a
seen it.
side tangent,
I've
but
not watched any yet.
it is so good. But they brought pretty much most of the original cast that they can back, obviously, bar
Mm,
the characters or people that have died. Original creators back, and it pretty much just feels like they picked up where they left off. And I
yeah,
feel like that along with some of the other revivals as well, we're in the spate of revivals at the moment. So it kind of seems like the perfect time you do a
yeah.
Buffy series.
And it doesn't seem like any. I have not heard of any not making it to the screen either. Um,
No.
Now I know they didn't want to talk publicly about Buffy, and she wasn't.
Mm,
You know, Sarah said herself she wasn't very happy that the news was out when it leaked
mm,
because they didn't have a pilot pickup at that point. So people were
yeah.
talking about it happening before it was even really going to happen. Um,
Mm,
but you know, it just I don't know. It just baffles the mind a little bit. And so
mm,
just to say from the script that I read, which again
yeah.
unverified whether it's legit or not,
Yeah.
it I do have some issues with it. There's a couple of nostalgia bits that just seem really random and out of place.
Mm.
Um, this is going to mean absolutely nothing to you. But for context, for those who are Buffy fans, no one else appears in it other than her, as in terms of the whole thing is a one-woman show in terms of characters from the original show.
Yeah.
She's only in the final scene, and it completely tallies with what we saw from set photos. But my understanding from the articles and Deadline and people is that the rewrite that they
Yeah.
did based on the studio notes was to put her in it earlier, so she wasn't just dropped in at the end of the first episode. But hello, that what did you need her in it from the beginning? I would have loved to have met the new guys, and then at the end, it's like, whoa, she's hit, like, drop her in. Like, I don't want her from the beginning. I want to build up to seeing her again.
Yeah.
So the whole script that I read is very much based around Nova, who is a Slayer but doesn't know it yet,
Yeah.
and it basically tracks some similar moments to the pilot episode of Buffy. Like, it opens with the same scene, but then has a twist, and then introduces you to these new guys. And there are some really weird bits of dialogue in there. Oh wait, I've gone sidetracked from the thing I was talking about. Yeah, so there is a library in Sunnydale, in New Sunnydale, which is called the Rupert Giles Library, which is Anthony Stewart Head's character from the show. He isn't in it, but a mysterious benefactor sends money to this library to keep a wing named after him, which is a little bit random and feels a little bit unnecessary. Doubly unnecessary because people don't know who Buffy is. So Buffy is, as a person and as a hero, is a myth in Sunnydale. So they go looking for basically old, like, high school yearbooks to try and see if she was a real person or not. But people don't know what she did in the original show. It's all spoken about as if it's a myth. So it seems weird that she would be a myth that people don't know exists, but then randomly Giles has a library named after him.
Yeah, that does seem a bit odd.
Yeah, but it just feels slightly nostalgic. Other than that, I have no major issues with it. There is some weird dialogue, which was what I was about to go off on a tangent with. The weirdest thing, and I don't get it, and I would love to see the episode to understand the context if it's still in there. They don't say killed or dead. They say unalived.
Oh God, no! Right, that's a TikTok generation thing because you.
Oh my God! Please, are you telling me that I'm so old I don't get something from TikTok?
So I mean, this is the thing. I get it. I hate the fact that it's a thing, but it's a thing regardless. So
it's a real thing.
Yeah. So the reason it's happened is because on TikTok there are such strict guidelines in terms of what you can and can't say, to the point where if you say the word killed, or if you're even talking about a film where like someone kills someone, because their guidelines are so strict,
yeah, you can't say it.
Yeah, there have been instances where people have even just used the term unalived, and then their like video or their account got like taken down. If you thought YouTube's like things were strict, TikTok is even worse, because at least with YouTube there's leniency in certain areas. TikTok's is like, yeah, if you say the word killed, suicide, or like dead, you can't. Well, you can, but like you have to really just hint that that's the word you're trying to say. And unalived seems to be the really stupid alternative word that's been around for like a couple years now, that I really do not like that word. If you're going to say it, just say it. That's a little side rant, but it's, yeah.
That just proves how disconnected I am from TikTok. So when I read the script last night, sorry, I read it in bed last night. I was just like, what the fuck is unalived? But the even funnier thing
in
is,
an actual script, like, again, we don't know if it's real, or just with that caveat, but the fact that that is in an actual script actually makes me, to use the youth term, cringe. Makes me cringe. But
the really funny thing about that is I was messaging people from my uni core group of friends last night because we were big Buffy fans. And we were all like, what is this unalive thing? This unalive thing is so weird. But clearly we're all so old that we're not part of the TikTok generation. So then I wonder whether in context in the show it would have been one of the kind of tongue-in-cheek things, like, because the whole thing with the original show was that it was really like all of the dialogue was really like meta and pop culture referential. To the point where I wrote my entire dissertation on it during my undergrad, was on the lexicon of Buffy. So a part of it, I guess, just would have been that it would have been using that as a kind of, I guess, tongue-in-cheek thing about the TikTok generation, that it's proliferated into normal language. There's probably not much more that we want to say about this, because I realize I've been talking about it for nearly 20 minutes. Basically, it's sad. It's very, very sad. But I, at this point now, don't know what's going to happen next. Like, I actually wouldn't be surprised if the level of vocal outcry, we wake up tomorrow and there's another article saying they're reconsidering it and they're repicking up development on it, or I think the only thing that's now worth saying is if Chloe Zhao has to move on and this script gets completely ejected and they go back to square one, my only fear is Sarah Michelle Gellar said no for decades about ever coming back. She said she has said no to every single offer and that there's been plenty. Chloe is the first time anyone's come to her with an idea that she even felt like she wanted to listen to all the way through. My God, she's Patrick Stewart with Star Trek. Is that they may never get her back on board again, regardless of whatever it is they come up with next. And then the opportunity that you have just thrown away is ridiculous.
Like, I suppose this isn't me just like trying to overthink it, but I suppose there might have been a small bit of hesitancy from Hulu in the sense that, like, the last time Chloe Zhao tried a franchise thing was Eternals, and that didn't
sit well.
No, it didn't sit well with fans, but also I think box office returns weren't great either. So maybe there's like a bit of hesitation there. But even then, like you said, she's won Best Director once. She's been nominated again this year.
Yeah.
Like, she is a great director.
And I think she was only on board for, well, I mean, she wasn't going to, they were looking for a showrunner.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a case of she was going to be in charge of the whole thing. She was going to be almost the way that Guy Ritchie works with shows like Mobland and with Young Sherlock, in that they're on there with an EP credit. They've helped develop the idea and they direct that first episode or couple of episodes.
Yeah.
And then they're just in the background somewhere rather than being day to day. So I don't even know that you would have felt her presence that much beyond the beginning of it. But yeah, certainly. And when it was first announced, when Sarah first put her video out saying that it wasn't going to happen, outlets jumped to say that they were hearing rumbles that Hulu didn't think that Chloe quite aligned with the brand. But actually, in terms of how she handles the genre aspect of it, and I promise we will move on. I actually really like the idea of how they worked the vampires into the script. If it's legit, because the way they did it is, spoiler alert for you for the end of the actual show. Buffy goes into the Hellmouth and closes it, and in closing the Hellmouth, which is where all these demons have been coming from, the whole town drops into a sinkhole. So the show ends with the entire town where the show has been set destroyed. It is just a giant hole in the California desert. And so the suggestion is that in the 20 years since then, although it's actually set 25, so it's ever so slightly in the future, basically the American government has filled in the sinkhole and built a new city on top. But what happens is, after years of nothing, because people have been moving back in and Buffy has moved on and moved away, a girl turns up dead with neck wounds as they would from a vampire, and it turns out that basically there were vampires who were in the town when it fell into the sinkhole that ended up trapped in a cave system underneath, because there's hundreds of tunnels and stuff underneath. I used to know the exact number of churches that were buried in the earthquake. Luke Hearfield will laugh, because the last time we did a Buffy pub quiz together, one of the questions was how many churches are there in Sunnydale, and I got it spot on.
And no, you can't remember it.
No, off the top of my head, I can't do it. I'm just so incensed by the whole story. Anyway, so the way they come, it's vampires who were trapped by what Buffy did in the final episode of season 7. That then resurface in the present day, which is also a great way to circle back to jokes from the old show, because they used to joke about how vampires looked terrible because they dressed 80s, because they were generally people that had been turned in the 80s that had been lurking around. So there's there's then jokes where the vampires resurface and they're like, dude, can someone go like ask Jeeves as to what's happened in the last 20 years? And they found a good way to work it, but yeah.
Okay.
We will park that and we will just have to wait and see what happens next. But then, interestingly, the same day that news happens, we also get some very different news, which is also about a Joss Whedon show, or former Joss Whedon show. So, whilst poor Sarah was getting the news that her show was axed, Nathan Fillion was appearing on a panel at AwesomeCon to announce that Firefly might be coming back.
Yeah.
So this was at the end of a week of teasers? I
I
think.
think it went on longer than a week.
It might have been 10 days, might have even
Yeah.
been 2 weeks, of all these really funny videos of basically Nathan Fillion turning up at the door of every other cast member from Firefly
Yeah.
that is still alive,
Mm,
and just being like, "It's time."
mm.
And I think people spent a long time trying to figure it out. I very much fell on the side of, like a rewatch podcast, but with all of them sat, like, a round
Yeah.
table.
'Cause the
Uh,
bit that threw me off is that Alan Tudyk and Nathan Fillion have a podcast
had a
together, and
podcast.
every
Yeah,
video had that podcast tagged in it, and I'm
it
like,
did, didn't it?
this is a reunion episode. It's
Yeah,
just that's all it's
yeah.
gonna be."
But no, it's so that's the Once We Were Spacemen,
Yeah.
podcast. But no, the news is that, and this is interesting, and this is where someone says to me, "I wonder if Hulu's taking one for the other," but Hulu is not involved with this
No.
right now at this very moment in time. Um, so basically, what he announced was that the entire cast, so that is Nathan Fillion, Alan Tudyk, Gina Torres, Jewel State, Marina Bukharin, Sean Mayer, and Summer Glau, and Adam Baldwin, who was
Yeah.
not part of the panel, are reuniting and are trying to get an animated version of Firefly off the ground.
Yeah.
They have got 20th Century Television on board. Joss Whedon
Yeah.
has given his blessing for them to take the show off in
Mm.
whatever direction they want. Nathan
Mm.
Fillion's producing it under his Collision 33 production company.
Mhm.
They've got Mark Guggenheim, who people who listen to this podcast probably will know from being showrunner on Legends of Tomorrow, and I think Flash for a little while. He also worked on Arrow. He was instrumental to the Arrowverse, and his producing partner and wife Tara Butters, who worked on Reaper, which is a really funny sitcom, and Agent Carter, are going to co-show run this animated show, and
Mm.
then they have got Shadow Machine on board as the animation house. Now, I forget what it is, but they won a big award for something. Shadow Machine did something major.
Trying to
So I'm
remember it
going to
now.
have to Google as I'm talking. But basically, they're on board to produce the animation, and there is some artwork, character design artwork, which is already out online,
Mm.
which you can check out. The thing that they don't have is basically now sort of a budget and a home. So that's
Yeah.
what they are looking for. So they are looking for fans to kind of mobilize and get on board and help them find a home. So they've produced stop motion animation show Robot Chicken. They've also
Mhm.
produced shows such as Moral Oral, Mary Shelley's Frankenhole, The Shivering Truth, Titan Maximum. So they're big into Adult Swim. They've also produced BoJack Horseman.
Yep.
They have worked on Tucker and Bertie, which starred Tiffany Haddish, Ali Wong, and Stephen Young. I think that they apparently they're also working on a Bob the Builder show.
Yeah.
I thought they had one right in. They had one. Oh, they worked on Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, which they
Yeah.
had won awards for.
Mm.
Wow, didn't realize they worked on Pinocchio. That's
Well, I
oh,
think BoJack Horseman won some Emmys, I
yeah,
think.
it did. So
Yeah.
there's lots of Emmys for outstanding individual achievement in animation for
Mm.
Robot Chicken, BoJack. It's quite a few different. Basically, they are a well-lauded
Yep.
animation studio that they've got on board. So they just need a home.
Mm.
So I believe the only thing that did not seem to be widely written about that I saw was that they want to expand the universe but preserve the continuity. So I believe it's going to be set between the show and Serenity, because obviously having Alan Tudyk on board is slightly impossible at a certain point because he got killed off, didn't he?
I think so. It's been a long time since I've seen Firefly.
Well, this is where I lose some of my credentials because I've never made it through the whole season. I have tried on multiple occasions, but I do like the board game. I play the board game Firefly quite a lot, which is based on the show. But this interesting news, and it's just interesting that it came at the same time that we got such bad news about Buffy. Interesting that there's also so much interest in Joss Whedon shows, and say what you will about him. I'm pleased that he is allowing people to take his creations and let them still have a life beyond his now pretty much defunct career.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like the fact that
I think I said that quite well.
I like the fact that he's allowing people to do that because I mean, I think people have been. I mean, I think people have been wanting a Firefly sequel series slash reboot
Yeah.
for a long, long time, and I feel like if it was still stuck with him, it's obviously not going to happen anymore, or otherwise it would take longer than it should do. But the one thing I find really endearing about this is the fact that the cast have kind of done this themselves.
Yeah, it feels
Like
like
they
they've put
want
it
to do
together.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I put this in our kind of chat group, didn't I? That I don't think you could. I think it would be wrong. Well, not wrong. That's bad.
Mm.
I don't think it's viable to make a live action show because I don't think you could do a live action
Mm.
show on the budget that it needs and make the return that you would expect because it's a cult niche show.
Yeah, it
That's not
was.
to say it's not deserving of being either more
Yeah.
successful or having a return.
Mm.
I think it's almost like Doctor Who and Star Trek in a way.
Yeah.
Can't make it on an unlimited Marvel budget because you're never
No.
ever, even through all of the merch sales that you would get out
Mm.
of it, you're just never going to make back that level that you put into it. It
Mm.
needs to be made in a way that is going to make
Yeah.
a good return at the same
Uh,
time, which is why I think animation is kind of a genius idea.
yeah, I was actually going to say something similar in the sense that like the landscape for TV's changed a lot since the
Yeah,
2000s. Because in the 2000s, there were tons of mid to high budget sci-fi shows that kind of
yeah,
ruled the space. Like you had Firefly, which was one of the more cult ones. You had Doctor Who. You had Stargate. You had,
yeah.
I think there was a Star Trek show during that time as well.
Enterprise was
Um,
born around then.
that's the one. Um, there is another one I'm forgetting. Oh god. Anyway,
I mean,
there were a
don't forget
lot of
all the
like,
ones there's loads of, like, one and done
yeah.
canceled ones, like, you
Oh,
post Buffy whilst Angel was still on, and then just after Angel, you had stuff like True Calling, which was Eliza Dushku's first
yeah.
one. You had Dollhouse that was also
I
Eliza and,
think the one that I was thinking of as well was like
Archangel.
the redo of Battlestar Galactica as well.
Yeah,
Basically all these like space opera sort of shows that varied in budget and
yeah,
audience.
yeah.
Stargate Atlantis was the other one. I knew Jewel State was in my head for some reason,
Oh,
other than Firefly. But yeah, you had all these shows that were kind of taking up the space back in 2000s, and at the time you could kind of afford them because again, like stuff like Stargate was with Sci-Fi Channel, so they kind of work with that on a small budget. And
yeah.
Firefly was different because it only lasted one season. But again, there was a lot of that, so you could kind of get away with it. Whereas over the 2010s,
They've
that's kind
sprinkled
of now a very niche type
yeah,
of show. Like let's just go to space for a new series. You don't get those sorts of shows anymore unless it's an established brand like Doctor Who or Star Trek.
mm.
Um, so
It's
yeah, what
interesting,
was the
really. I suppose
yeah.
everything goes in circles, so I wonder if it will come back into, it'll become cool again at some point.
Yeah, I'm glad it's back in any form, and I think, like you said, animation is probably the best place you can go for a show
Yeah,
like this,
yeah,
especially in terms of its tone, because it
yeah,
is
yeah,
very like it's not as tongue in cheek and playful as Buffy, but it's still got that Whedon sense of humor that I
yeah,
think would
exactly.
work quite well for animation.
Yeah. I almost kind of envision it like, well, obviously you've got BoJack Horseman and stuff, which is clearly a kind of Adult Swim blueprint.
Mm.
I had kind of like Harley Quinn in my head, um,
Yeah,
as a potential sort of blueprint for what they might try and do with it.
yeah, that's a shout. I mean, Robot Chicken's quite ridiculous as well with its
Yeah,
with
true.
its humor. So I know they've, and again, knowing that the two showrunners, I think, met on Firefly, or they have worked on other Joss Whedon products in the past.
Yeah.
Hopefully, with them on board, plus all the cast. I mean, obviously, they want to do it. They wouldn't have done this if they didn't.
It's nice that they're
That
all friends in that respect and that they've obviously sat down together and had a discussion about it and decided, "Let's do this together."
Yeah, and actually, that I just literally was thinking about this right now. Like, if this kind of leans back into Buffy a little bit, but like if Firefly can find new life, and even though Doctor Who's struggling a bit, it's found a way
Mm.
to keep going. Um, Plus, I think it was last year that MGM announced that they were bringing Stargate back.
Yep.
So, I think now's the best time more than ever
Yeah.
for them to keep bringing these shows back. They do work, sometimes not as well as you think they will, but I mean, to make the most out of it, bring Buffy back properly.
Hashtag bring Buffy back.
Yeah.
I can't quite remember the narrative thread of how we get from Firefly to this next story, but you had
it was more the connecting thread of the next thing into the thing after, but
oh, okay.
We'll,
In which
yeah,
case,
we'll
pretend there's some wonderful narrative imagery going on right now as we move into the fact that Sunday night was the Oscars.
yeah.
Didn't go how I was hoping.
No.
But an amazing night if you happen to work at Warner Brothers, given their 11 awards, which is tied for a studio record. Big winner was one battle after another, which took Best Director and Best Picture, which is kind of the big two.
Yeah.
And then equally as successful, though didn't end up picking up Best Picture, was Sinners, which had 4 awards.
Yeah.
And some surprises at the same time. Not a huge amount of surprises, but some surprises nonetheless.
Yeah. I think a lot of the ones that won, that's a lot of ones in one sentence. A lot of the ones that won their categories were kind of expected, but then there was the odd one here and there where, case in point, Best Actor, I think a lot of people at this point were like, it could either go to Michael B. Jordan or Timothy, but no one quite knew which way it was going to go. So I think at the end of the day, people would be happy regardless who either of those two won. But then I think most of the other categories were pretty straightforward. I mean, Amy Madigan winning for Weapons is probably the most pleasant surprise of the whole thing, because I think before this year's Oscars, I haven't seen this many horror nominations.
No.
Full stop at the Oscars.
Yeah. That's one. Yeah. I was not happy about this one. Not that I don't think she's a good actor. I just really wanted Wunmi Mosaku to win.
Yeah.
And I don't really follow the Oscars particularly because it doesn't tend to, all the stuff that I like only tends to win stuff like hair and makeup. Though I was very glad that Frankenstein was up for Best Picture. But just because the stuff that I tend to like doesn't tend to win. But I really like Wunmi, and I obviously really like Sinners. So I was really rooting for her to win. I would have loved it to have won Best Picture, and I do think that Ryan Coogler fell victim to the Academy's racism by not winning Best Director. But I'm glad they gave him the Screenplay Award.
Yeah, it does feel a bit similar to the 2018 Get Out situation, where I feel like they've done the same thing to Jordan Peele that they've done with Ryan Coogler, where it's like, we're not going to give you director, you'll be nominated, but we're not going to give it to you. We're going to give you original screenplay instead as like a consolation prize, which feels harsh to say, but like at the end of the day, I'm still glad he's won an Oscar full stop.
Definitely. The big watershed one, however, is achievement in cinematography, which went to Sinners, went to Autumn Gerald Arkapour, who becomes the first female winner of achievement in cinematography, which is insane. It's what? How many years of the Oscars? This was the
98th.
Oh, 98th.
Yeah.
And it's taken nearly a century for a woman to win for cinematography, but finally it happens.
Yeah, it makes no sense that it's taken this long, because there are, talented cinematographers out there of both male and female, and the fact that it's been such a male dominated, it's a little bit like the Best Director category. Even though we have had winners in that category before that are women, it's nowhere near enough. Literally, it's just Catherine Bigelow and Chloe Zhao, and that's it. Occasionally you do get a nomination for a woman, but like this feels like a turning point. But I bet you next year's Oscars we're just going to revert back to like mostly males again.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. It is a real shame.
Yeah. But then there was another record. Did you tell me that Jessie Buckley is the first Irish winner of Best Actress?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's just Best Actress category full stop, or if it's the main acting categories.
Oh, wow.
Or like lead actors.
Yeah.
Because I know Colin Farrell's won Best Supporting, I think, in the past.
Hmm.
But yeah, she is the first Irish actress to win Best Lead Actor. Yeah.
I still haven't seen Hamlet. I should
It's
really.
like you need tissues when you see
Yeah.
it, but it is worth it. I was hoping, like, the two I was riding on to win Best Picture was either Sinners or Hamnet. I'd be happy with either of them winning it, and the one I didn't want to win won. And yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that because I don't want to piss people off, even though
I
every,
am with
yeah,
you. I was hoping that film wouldn't take the most awards, but
yeah,
hey, no accounting for personal taste. If you liked it, you liked it. If you didn't, you did not.
mm,
On the topic of films which are divisive, and on the topic of Jessie Buckley,
mm-hmm.
we had a couple of films that we wanted to sort of individually review because I haven't seen the one that you have seen, and you haven't seen the one that I have seen.
No,
So the Jessie Buckley narrative takes me to Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride, which is in cinemas now from Warner Brothers, and has really not made the impact I think they thought it was going to. And I
no,
am genuinely surprised, and I do not know why. I did not go to a press screening of this. I went
mm,
and saw it in opening weekend, and it was packed for a start. So my screening was really busy,
mm,
um, and I really liked it. It doesn't. There are moments where it doesn't quite fully land, and it's maybe just a shade too long. I maybe would have trimmed a
yeah,
couple of bits down, but Christian Bale is great. Jessie
mm,
Buckley is incredible. It's a
mm,
really great cast, and it's a big swing, and I appreciate a
mm,
big swing when it doesn't fully land. It would have,
mm,
I mean, it would have been. I'd be saying it should win Best Picture next year if it had completely landed. It's kind of a 4-star, not a 5-star, but I
yeah,
just really it was exactly what I wanted from it based on the trailer that I had watched. I think I'd only watched the first one.
mm,
Basically, my idea of what it was going to be based off what I had seen, it
mm.
lived up to it.
Okay, that's good to know because I think it's one of those weird films where every time I've seen the trailer, I've like the style and tone is obviously very apparent, but I've not
Yeah,
known quite what to make of it just from
yeah,
the trailers because I know what I mean when I say this, but like the vibe the trailer gives off is more like, okay, I know what the style is, but is it going to like deliver on the other stuff? It's a
mm,
little bit like the OG Suicide Squad issue, where
yeah,
the trailers were very
yeah,
stylized, and then the film ends up being the style of the trailers and not really much else,
yeah.
and that along with a load of other issues, and that's kind of the one thing I had in the back of my head for The Bride, which is that like where the trailer looks the part, but does the film give you more than just a punky aesthetic?
Which it does. It does have a story. It's a little bit loose, and there's a
Hmm.
subplot with Penelope Cruz and Peter Sarsgaard, which is a little bit undercooked,
Hmm.
but could have added a little bit more life to it if they'd spent a bit more time honing it in the script itself. There is a really
Yeah.
weird, really, really weird framing device that I won't
Hmm.
spoil because I think you need to see the film to
Okay.
go, what? But the kind of opening scene and how you get brought
Hmm.
into the world of Ida, which is the character being played by Jessie Buckley before she becomes the bride,
Yeah.
is really weird. But in being
Okay.
weird, it gives Buckley the chance to do some just to go crazy. And I wonder if there's
Hmm.
much improv in there. I can almost imagine Maggie Gyllenhaal giving her the lines and saying, "In this
Hmm.
moment you are this, in this moment you are this.
Yeah.
Go as big as you want, go as crazy as you want. Let's just see where we find what lands." Because
Hmm.
it feels very much like it was a bit of an on-set playground, and
Hmm.
it's just a bit random. But
I
for the
think
most
that's
part,
the vibe I got from the trailer as well, is that it feels like it's a lot going on.
mm, it's very it's very maximalist, which I feel like is a term I've used a lot
Yeah.
recently. But
Mm,
it's quite loud at times. There is a lot
mm,
going on. The characters are all very big and are very quite they're all quite loud. And there are times where it
mm,
pushes things and you're like, oh, okay, right. Yeah. it's not shock value for the sake of shock value at any point, but it just sort of there are things that happen in it that you're like, okay, you were just trying to go big.
Mm.
That makes sense.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. For some reason, as we're talking about like the style of this, an example's coming into my head of, if anyone remembers, Gangster Squad from 2013 with
Yeah,
Ryan Gosling in it. I
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I enjoy that film, but considering like the advertisements for that were hyping it up to be like the next big gangster epic that's got like, all the level of thematic, all that stuff that like the Untouchables had, but just a new version of that. And then you watch the film, and it is like the most over the top, stereotypical version of a gangster film you could ever watch, with
yeah,
slow motion shootouts and everything.
yeah.
That's the thing I've got in my head at the moment in terms of like a film to compare it to, where it's like you're expecting one thing, and it's just like, oh no, this is like the over the top
Yeah.
version of that. We're going to take these cliches from this genre and just like boom, crank it as far as it will go.
One of the funny things about it is a few people have said to me, like, "Oh, it's just going to be feminist, so I'm not going to bother because it's a female director and a female lead character."
Mm,
And there is some kind of feminism in there, but
mm,
it also critiques. It's not necessarily my place to say this, but from what I took from it, was it feels like a critique of how everyone perceives women, including other
mm,
women.
mm,
So in her losing who she is and having a new identity,
yeah.
she questions how she sees herself. She questions how the monster, aka
Mm,
Frankenstein, sees her, and how her creator sees her, and how everyone around her sees her. So
mm,
it's not like it's not bashing men for their opinion of
mm,
poor opinions of women. It bashes everyone for poor opinions of women and says
mm,
it. I think anyone can take away the message from it, which is that you should always just strive to be who you are and find who you are, regardless
mm.
of who you are.
Yeah,
It's not trying to specifically speak to women or for women. It's just that she is a female lead.
yeah.
It's more of a kind of portrait of trying to find identity and deconstructing identity and ideas about identity and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense because again, that's kind of the vibe I've seen a lot of people saying. And again, I don't think these are people that have necessarily seen the film. It's
Mm.
just people that have kind of taken one look at it and gone, that's that's too feminist. It's not for me," which I think is a stupid take to have to not watch a film.
People seem
Um,
to think it's a musical as well, which is also a bit random because it's not a musical.
yeah, no, I think that might be because one of the later trailers really focuses on like this dance sequence.
Mm. Which is
And
brilliant in film. It's so good.
yeah, and I know when I saw that, there was a part of me where I'm like, "Oh, there's a song and dance number halfway through. Okay, that's a bit."
And so
Um,
Jake Gyllenhaal's character is
mm,
an old school Hollywood star, and he sings in his films. So you do see him
mm,
sing, but
mm,
it's not a musical. People don't burst into song. He is just singing in the films that he's in, which
mm,
Frankenstein is a fan of. Um, One thing that I will say,
yeah,
and people will just go, "Oh, it's the DC guy saying the DC thing." I kind of felt like it would have been a perfect Joker and Harley movie.
yeah, yeah.
It's sort of a better Joker 2 than Joker 2.
Mm. If you know what, now that you're actually saying that, if the Birds of Prey film had that sort of style, do you think that would then take into account this is coming
Yeah.
from two people that like Birds of Prey?
Yes.
But is that the kind of thing like if
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you
Do you
put
know
the
it's
tone
a
of this
similar
into that?
female director, female lead makes
Yeah.
something that's got a real strong stylistic vision,
Mm.
which I
Yeah.
guess is a sad critique of audiences, that audiences don't vibe with a female director who's got a strong vision.
Well, yeah, I mean it's a double-edged sword because like I don't
Yeah.
get how someone can not be fine with this, yet they're absolutely fine with Greta Gerwig's Barbie,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is
The
like
same
the
thing.
most expensive over the top version of that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, people still did have a problem with Barbie, but we won't get onto that. They're just idiots. But yeah, I do find it It's almost double standards a little bit. It's like, how can
Yeah.
you be fine with Greta Gerwig's one, or other female directors that have got to her status? You're not fine with this one-off, experimental, very stylistic
Mm.
thing. Like, there's not
Yeah.
much in it other than one's a bit of a horror thing and one's more of a big budget comedy. Apart from that,
Yeah. Same. Similar
approach-wise,
approach.
they're kind of similar. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
and
I
that's
hope it.
making sense.
I was talking to a friend who's a costume designer because I said to her,
Mm,
"You're going to love this film because it's so stylish."
yeah.
But I said I felt like it's probably got cult classic status incoming. I feel like it's
Mm,
the kind of thing that people will discover on home video, and I hope
mm.
it just finds a really niche audience that absolutely love it. But I will fly that flag very much.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure as well. Like, I'm pretty sure it was supposed to come out last year,
Yes,
but
it's been
then
in the
got
can
pushed
for a
back.
while.
Yeah, got pushed back for whatever reason. But even that, I'm not 100% sure as to why or what happened.
So my understanding of it is that no one's ever really commented on why, but
Yeah.
that the insiders, and we're talking about
Mm,
the same insiders that don't like that Sarah Michelle Gellar spoke up to a male
mm,
executive, just to bring it back to Buffy, um, are saying that Maggie Gyllenhaal had a really terrible grasp on it, and that other people had to come in and finish it for her and fix it, and etc. etc. But I
mm,
don't. I've seen no evidence of that to know if that's legit. I
yeah.
don't. I I fail to see that she would be out promoting it the way that she did if she wasn't happy with the final product.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
mean, that final product is something that she should be happy with.
Yeah. That seems fair.
Yeah,
Yeah. Mm,
I know.
mm,
So it's still going to be in cinemas for a couple more weeks, but then I think it'll be on digital pretty quickly. So please, I didn't see it in IMAX, which is sad because it's shot for IMAX. Because she's the
mm.
first female director to shoot in IMAX, I think. Uh, I saw them mention it somewhere in one of her interviews where it was like she's the first female director to create a film in IMAX for IMAX,
Okay. I didn't know
which
that.
yeah, it surprised me as well. So please do go see it if you get a chance while it's in the cinema. But if not, pick it up and watch it at
Mm.
home. Just give it a chance because it's well worth it. And I'm going to forget which composer it was, which is why I'm going to scroll up right now. Hilda, it's Hilda from Joker.
Ah, okay.
Her. Brilliant soundtrack. I'm keeping an eye out for when it gets a vinyl announcement because I will be ordering
Mm,
in seconds because it's a really good soundtrack.
mm. I can already imagine them doing like one of those ink-filled vinyls for it.
Yeah.
I can just already imagine that in my head.
I'm just saying, which one will it be? Will it be Mondo or will it be Mutant? Whichever one. I'm just watching both of their web stores for there being
I'm leaning towards Mutant. I don't
Mutant
know
do
why.
more Warner Brothers, so I think it probably will be. And they did
Yeah,
Frankenstein as well.
yeah.
So maybe they like monster movies. That was terrible. They're just both
And
Frankenstein.
Sinners.
Move on, Neil. Move on. Move on. Yeah. So tell me about yours because I feel like I'm going to end up missing this at the cinema and I'm going to regret it because it just looks like a film that I would love and would be really
Mm.
heartwarming, which I need right about now.
Yes. So, Hoppers is. This makes me feel so old when I say this. Is Pixar's 30th film.
30th. Wow.
Yeah, bang on 30th. And is directed by Daniel Chong, who I didn't realize this till after seeing it, is the creator of the Cartoon Network show We Bare Bears, which I did used to watch a little bit of, and now having seen Hoppers, has the exact same style of humor. So it seems like a no-brainer. And this, the more I've thought about it since seeing it, this does feel like the perfect 30th film for them to make, because it feels like it kind of dips into a little bit of Pixar's roots in the fact that it's an original concept.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of going back to those early stage Pixar films that took a what if scenario and really pushed that to the extreme. So like with Monsters Inc., it was like, what do the monsters do that come out of your cupboard? Toy Story was obviously what happens to your toys when they come to life when you're not looking. And Hoppers very much is like, what if you put your head inside of a
Beaver?
like an animal, like a robot. It's technically a robotic beaver, but I was about to say putting your head
Oh,
literally
is it?
into Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a real beaver. Well, obviously it's not
So
real beaver, it's animated.
so the general premise is this young animal lover called Mabel, who had a really strong relationship with her grandmother, and her grandmother kind of, because Mabel was a very let's just say opinionated kid and wanted to like look after animals. And I think there's a sequence right at the start of the film where she tries to free all of the animals in her primary school, but then fails. And it's quite funny. Basically, her grandmother teaches her that like nature is like the perfect calming device, and just sitting in silence and letting you be embraced by nature is kind of the best way to kind of calm down. And that starts her love for nature and just animals in general. And
Yeah.
basically, the gist of the film is that Mabel comes across, this is her at like university age, comes across this device thing that one of her lecturers is working on that allows you to put your mind and subconscious into this robot animal that looks very lifelike. And that allows you to commune and talk to animals as if they were talking English. And she uses that to then round up all the animals in this habitat together to stop this highway being built across their habitat, which they haven't been a part of for a while. And that's half the reason they're building it, is because animals haven't been in this like estuary area for a little while. So that's kind of the main plot, but it goes in directions that I was not expecting, both like comedically, but the last like 10 to 20 minutes lean into body horror a little bit. And I kind of loved that. Uh like it's not like full blown scary, but
Yeah.
if I was like 4 or 5 watching this in the cinema, it would creep me out a little bit. Some of the visual imagery they use is like, oh, it's not scary, it's just kind of kind of
Disturbing?
disturbing. Yeah.
Interesting.
But no, it's that perfect middle ground of like, it embraces all of the stylistic and visual like style and comedy that has been present in recent Pixar films, whilst really making the most of what made Pixar in those early few films that made everyone love them.
Yeah.
And it finds that really nice balance of those two things. Like, it carries over one animation thing that really worked for me in Turning Red, which is that Turning Red leaned into like anime stylistic things, like exaggerated facial
Yes,
expressions,
I've seen
or
about this on social media because I saw someone getting completely laughed off Twitter for saying they didn't like tiny eyes to big eyes.
yeah, that it's a very like, it's one of those things where like, if you don't know the things to look for, you probably might not even
Yeah.
pick up on it. But I that was one of my favorite aspects of Turning Red, and they do it here. And personally, I think they use it better in Hoppers because it really helps exaggerate moments of comedy, but also like not necessarily like action sequences, but like it just helps exaggerate everything it's
Yeah.
trying to do. But no, I absolutely loved Hoppers. I think I can see where everyone's coming from, in the sense that like, oh, Pixar hasn't been the same as it used to be, and I completely understand where they're all coming from. But personally, I still think they've released good stuff in the last couple of years. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like people who are saying, "Oh, this is their best since Soul," or "This is their best since Toy Story 4," immediately does a disservice to stuff like Luca, Elio, Elemental, which I think have all kind of gone under the radar a bit.
It
But
sadly
they're
have.
all, yeah, and I do get a bit annoyed on that behalf, because I personally think they're all still really strong films. They're maybe not Pixar's best, but they're still really good, and they still deserve to
You
be
know what I'm
talked about in a
thinking?
positive manner.
You know what I'm thinking?
What?
I think we need a Pixar's most underrated episode.
I'm more than happy to do to do that one.
Someone
Um,
write that down.
hang on. um,
I think we should, because I would sort of hope that when a film like this comes out,
mm,
people go, "Oh," particularly if it's the 30th, Would look at it and go, I wonder which ones I've not seen, and maybe go back to some of those ones that, particularly from pandemic era, that didn't end up in the cinema that they might not have seen,
Yeah.
and give them a chance, which they had maybe
Mm.
had before. That would be interesting. I
Uh,
wonder whether that does make some of those ones have a little bump in audience figures on Disney Plus because people go back and find them.
yeah, I think the other thing as well is that Hoppers does a really good job of not just finding that balance of new and old. It also just because it is the 30th one pays homage to almost every era of Pixar film I can think of. Like the amount
That's
of
awesome.
Easter eggs that I picked up on
Yeah,
when seeing this, and take into account, I don't necessarily go into Pixar films looking for Easter eggs, but some of them in this were like so because I've been following them my whole life, like most people have.
yeah,
There are some where I'm like, that's that's really cool, and then more just kept happening. And
that's cool.
there's one image at the end of the near the end of the film, which is like 6 Easter eggs in one go, which, if you subscribe to the Pixar theory, helps just reignite that
Yeah,
theory. I won't go into too much detail, but basically, the lecturer's got a load of other projects on a chalkboard. All of them are different, like references to other Pixar films. Like
love that.
it's a character from another film, or it's a device you've seen in a different one. And even though people at Pixar have said the theory's not a real thing, that chalkboard just has,
Just does
has
it.
just reignited it again.
I bet
But
that's on purpose, which is funny, and I appreciate that.
yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, everyone on the internet's gonna have a field day with that. But that chalkboard alone.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just the right film they needed for not just for their 30th film, but also just coming in right before Toy Story 5 comes out.
Yeah.
It seems like the perfect thing they needed for this. It's an original film. It's incredibly funny. It's really heartfelt and sweet, and I think its central message of like nature and knowing when to take things too far, but also um, friendship and knowing how to like all those sorts of things. I think it works really, really well, and it goes without saying the animation's bloody brilliant. But I feel like that's a given. I feel like that's a given with any Pixar
It should
film.
be. It should
Yeah,
be, if you ask me. I'm
yeah,
gonna have to try and make an effort to go and see it because I don't want to miss it. I don't
yeah.
want it to
I
be something
feel
that
like
I only catch when it's on Disney Plus.
so. I saw this Saturday of the weekend it opened, which was the same weekend The Bride was in cinemas.
Yeah.
Um, and my screening was the first or second one of the day, and it was I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't packed, but it could like there was still a fair few in it, but it could have been a lot busier.
Okay.
And considering this is a Pixar film, I kind of wished it was busier. Um, but I think it's performing quite well. I think it's
It seems
the
to be,
best.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Pixar's best performing film for a while, or at least compared to like Lightyear and Elio. Um, but yeah, I do recommend people see it in the cinema while it's still there, um, because yeah, I don't know how I don't know how else to word it. It just is. It's a lot of fun, and I think you're
It
gonna
looks so
have a
cute.
lot. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot to. I feel like especially if you're like a fan of Pixar from beginning to now, there's a lot to appreciate if you see it on a bigger screen rather than on your TV. Um, but yeah, I definitely cannot recommend it enough. At this point in time, it's currently my favorite film of the year. But again, we're only in March, so like I haven't
Yeah.
really got much of a list. But I can see it
No, but
still
that's still,
sitting
yeah.
around that top 10 by the end of the year, maybe.
The Bride is similar for me. It didn't quite
Mm,
make it to the top of the short burst of films I've seen this year, but it was.
mm,
I think it landed in my list at number 2, so it's really high up.
mm. Yeah, I
Awesome.
mean, at the
Yeah.
moment, I really haven't seen much this year. I've got Wasteman, Looney Tunes, and then a couple of other films, and then that's kind of it. So Hoppers is at the top of a very small list at the moment, but I'm looking to rectify that.
I can't tell you because my phone is on my camera. Oh no, I can because I can find myself on my iPad and look at my list. I've just had to Google myself on Letterboxd to try and find it. Oh no, the bride is at the top of my list. Sorry, I tell a lie. So I've got the bride at number one, followed by the day the Earth blew up, and then Send Help.
Is that your top 5?
So top 5 is Bride, Day the Earth Blew Up, Send Help, Cold Storage, and then Bone Temple.
Okay, mine is Hoppers at 1, Wasteman, The Day the Earth Blew Up, Dead Man's Wire, which there may be a review coming this week of that. A subtle plug. And a really small indie film called Satu Year of the Rabbit, which no one's heard of, but I do recommend that and it's on streaming. It's very good. But yeah, that's the fact that there's a lot of very small films in there just kind of proves that, like, when the heavy hitters start coming in, that list is going to start getting bigger and bigger.
Yes, it is. On topic of you saying about subtle hints towards reviews, and I was just going to wrap us up because I think we're at the end of our episode for this week. I do have a review coming for Daredevil, which I'm allowed to now start talking about at Social React. Just as you were talking, I just saw that I had 500 Twitter notifications.
Oh my god.
Yep.
If only I had that.
And it is all people being like, Spider-Man, 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 is Spider-Man in it? Is Spider-Man in it? Tell me Spider-Man's in it. Is Spider-Man in it? Is Spider-Man in the last episode? Spider-Man's in the last episode. You're a paid shill. Oh, there's one.
There's always one that ruins it.
Yeah. I've also got one that says, where did it go? I saw it. People say this about every live action show. Do they? Everyone says this with every show that this is funny. So this person says everyone says this with every show that comes out. I'm not moving, I fear. Then someone replies and says, when? Find me a quote from this guy where he says this for every TV show. And this person replies and says, I never said it about this person. And then they reply again and say, but you said everyone. Surely that includes this person. Go through his Twitter, find a reply. And then they just reply with bro and a crying emoji. So I've just stuck a laugh at the end of it. Like, guys, calm down.
It's also not that deep.
No,
people need to realize
brainwashed by stardom. Am I famous? And for some reason, they've used a GIF of Kamala Harris.
I think people also, not to go on a side tangent before we wrap up, but like the fact that we just so happen to have 2 good Marvel shows back to back with Wonder Man and this, like
we really have, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people kind of forget the time span between things.
Yeah.
And if someone said, oh, I liked Wonder Man and oh, I like this season of Daredevil, they're immediately going, oh, you like all of blank? And it's like, no, I just like these 2 things. They happen to be the most recent things. Doesn't mean I like all of it.
I can't talk about it in full until the 25th. So maybe we'll talk about it on our next episode. But I can tell you that I said in my social reaction, Daredevil Season 2 is a huge win for Marvel Television. An epic war for the heart of New York City, spun over 8 brutal, stylish, and consistently well-written episodes. It embraces the legacy of Marvel's Netflix era, coming damn close to surpassing its high bar.
Shove that on the DVD, yeah.
Shove that on your DVD case.
Yeah.
When is your Dead Man's Wire review dropping? You probably need me to tell you that because I would have.
No, I think I do. I think I did see it the other day. I think it's out on the 19th, and the film is in cinemas this Friday from the 20th. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So I set it to drop the day before.
Yeah, spoiler alert. The film is very good. Yeah, if you like 70s, based. How do I word this? If you like 70s films based on real life, like heist events, like Dog Day Afternoon, then you will love Dead Man's Wire. Also, it's Gus Van Sant directing it, so yeah.
I mean, as soon as I saw who it was directing it, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to have to watch this." Love me a slice of Gus Van Sant.
Yeah, it's very good.
Awesome. We will be back on the 1st of April, not a joke, with our next step. That's when our next episode is due to drop, which happens to also be release day for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And I am sincerely hoping that one or more of us will have seen it at that point.
I've got my fingers crossed to hopefully. I've inquired about the screening, but whether we actually end up at it, I don't know. So
yeah, I have also inquired, and I'm waiting for news. So we shall watch this space and see. Otherwise, maybe we'll talk about Dead Man's Wire. Maybe we'll talk about Daredevil. Maybe we'll talk about none of these things. Maybe they will have made an entire season of Buffy by then. Who knows? Until such time as April the 1st, I'm going to go grumble in a corner about this until someone does something about it. Yeah. So please do stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you out there. Bye.